By evening, a dozen stalled processes were suddenly humming, and a stubborn deliver campaign had fired perfectly. The Wildcard is not a builder in the usual sense. Today, we name another Forge character and peek behind the curtain.
You are listening to the Innovation Forge, the #1 podcast on adaptive enrollment management, exploring the data, marketing, and strategy that fuels higher education. Here's your host, David Dysard.
Today, we name another Forge character and peek behind the curtain. Welcome to a Coffee and Coals episode, our time to peek behind the curtain and learn a little bit more about the Innovation Forge. So, grab a coffee, get comfortable, and don't forget to stoke those coals. Today, I announce the next name of our enrollment aces, but first, we'll chat about the new funnel lineup. Let's see how a wildcard and the lineup takes shape today. The first 3 semesters of the podcast, and that's just generically what I call the semesters. I have 2 semesters a year, 2 seasons a year. I really built the Innovation Forge, and I branded the podcast very much in the everyday craftsman aesthetic. It's a lot of blacksmith, a lot of, again, that craftsmanship piece, the medieval aesthetic. And I definitely enjoyed that aesthetic and that branding. I mean, I wouldn't have done it otherwise. The other option I remember being like a coffee skin to everything. And while I think I am definitely glad I went with the craftsmanship aesthetic, it has not necessarily found an audience, it doesn't seem so far. And I wanted to try something a little bit different with this semester 4 of the podcast. And very much so leaning into the funnel of everything. So I wanted to today just briefly talk about some of the new episode types that are coming out this semester. And you've probably already started hearing some in the podcast. And I'll record future Coffee and Coals episodes that go into more detail for each of these. But I thought it'd be fun just to kind of give you a preview of what's coming up. So the new funnel lineup is bringing at least a half a dozen new types of episodes to the podcast that are new and haven't been done before on the podcast. So the first one up, and they're all very much so narrative or themed, I will say. So the first up is Inside the Funnel. This is a fake sports show that continues that kind of edutainment or infotainment or however you want to call it. It's imparting enrollment management lessons, especially around adaptive enrollment management, but doing it in a way that I hope, at least the plan is to make things that are entertaining to watch. So you get the educational piece, but you're like, I would just listen or watch this, regardless of being able to gather information and education out of it. In the funnel lineup, this one was kind of the first, like, yes, I'm going to try something different. And then I was like, I'll try this different. Well, I have like half a dozen other ideas I have on the back burner. Let's try some of those as well. And so Inside the Funnel was really a first step in bridging all of these different new types of episodes into the podcast and kind of just like, you know what, we're going to experiment. We're going to play with it this semester. And the Inside the Funnel has been really fun. I usually do it live on YouTube Live, so you can always keep an eye out on the YouTube channel for when I do those live. I think next time I also want to, because I have to prepare a document essentially, because as with most of my episodes, it's very visual forward. So you can listen to the Inside the Funnel episodes, and I don't think you're going to miss much. But if you are watching, you get to see all the different commentators, like Hallrick and Leonard Aidtab and Silas V. Lookup. And I feel like there's a fourth one. I don't remember who else is one of my fake commentators on the Inside the Funnel show. But it is very much so a visual forward. There's leaderboards and the mascot reveal. All those elements are very visual. So again, you're not really going to miss out on that much by just listening to it. It's still a great sports radio show. But if you do want to have that added layer of experience, I do put a lot of work into the aesthetics and the visuals of each episode. So for each episode, I do have to put together a PDF. So I think I do want to try to maybe the next time I put that PDF together, or I think I've been doing PowerPoints, but next time I do that, I will probably hop on live just to do that as well. Because it's kind of like, okay, this is my script. I need to mark down like, this is when I change to the next slide. I have to build the slide deck for the episode. And I could do those all in the video editing software. But if I'm going to be putting it together, I might as well do it ahead of time and just hop on live and see if anyone hops on and enjoys doing live. And that is definitely something I want to do more of, is the YouTube live stuff. It is a little tricky because it's one of those things like, okay, when am I going to have time to go live? It's usually late in the evening. And that's not always when the typical enrollment management professional is on YouTube looking to hop on a live to watch something. So I do need to figure that out a little bit better. Maybe try to do some more weekend stuff. But again, I don't even know if that's necessarily going to be much better. But anyways, so Inside the Funnel has been a lot of fun putting together, trying to like lean on the like 4 different accents I can do for those other fake commentators. But yeah, been a lot of fun, really enjoying it. And I will say the other element of a lot of these new episode types, and it doesn't really work very well because of the timing, but like I'm recording these and I've scripted them to be 12 episodes long, and functionally, so I would record them once a month. Okay, this is the July episode, August episode, to be relevant to people in that month. As we're talking about opening applications, recruitment, yield, melt pieces, I had initially planned and scripted these out to be month specific so that what I'm teaching is definitely most relevant when it be coming out on the podcast. But then I ran into the issue of like, I have 4 to 5 episodes per month. I'm adding in a lot of new different types of episodes, and historically 2 of my weeks have already been accounted for. I usually do an interview the first week of the month, coffee and close the second week. And if I'm doing 3 other month-specific episodes, it definitely cuts into me being able to release those in a timely fashion. So I'm not too sure how I'm going to get around that. That might be one of those things that I record them and I release them on YouTube to be month-specific, and maybe in the podcast they are lagging a little bit. So the next one up is the Funnel City Files. So this is a narrative noir edutainment piece again. And this actually I had done the Enrollment comic book, which again was adaptive enrollment management, very Pokemon, Digimon, both enrollment management professional lessons throughout the comic book. And again, that just didn't really land in a way that like really picked up traction. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll try a different type of comic book. So I landed on doing the Funnel City Files. And I'm like, okay, well, before I do the podcast, before I do the comic book, like it probably would be helpful to write them as like a series of short stories and then like adapting those into the comic books. Because one thing I definitely found when I did the first comic book of Enrollment was like I just had this point I wanted to hit. And it made the comic book drag on a little bit because it was like a 20-ish, 25-ish page comic book. But it had like 15 pages worth of content because I wanted the end of the first episode or the end of the first comic book just to land on this precise moment, which follows pretty roughly to the Enrollment musical album that I had released. And again, that was going to be another narrative piece where each album was a new season of that story. And so the first saga of the comic book was going to follow the first musical album. And it just, I feel like I did not create the musical album in a way that would like, pace out a comic book. So I wanted these kind of one-shot issues to be reflective of a story. That way, again, it's kind of 3 birds with 1 stone. Is okay, so I have the first story, it'll become a short story, it'll also become a comic book, it'll also have its own song in the Funnel City Files musical album, which then also becomes the opening and closing theme song of that particular episode, the Funnel City Files. And it allowed me to, I think, much more intentionally orchestrate the story to, again, follow the cycle in a way that makes sense as educational material, but also in a way that builds the narrative of these one-shot comic book issues and story issues into a full narrative arc. And I think that's helping a lot. So I'm releasing the short stories on like LinkedIn, Substack, reading the short stories on the podcast, and at some point I need to translate them into a comic book. And again, just haven't gotten around to the comic book yet, even though that was the initial thing that I had done the Funnel City Files for, was for the comic book. So looking forward to adapting that into a comic book, and I think that will be a really interesting project. That might be another thing that I do on live at some point. So we'll see how that goes. And that's another one that I'm like, I feel like because there are so many characters and it is so noir-y that I feel like they should have voices. I'm like, I'm not going to take a swing on doing voices on those. But so the next one is the next class. And this one isn't necessarily funnel vision. To me, we'll come back to that. So the next one I want to talk about is Funnel Vision. And this is a reality TV show. And very much so like Real Housewives. What's the Formula One reality show that they do, like Race to Survive or whatever it is? And I was like, oh, I think that's going to be really fun to like follow an admissions office in a reality TV style format. So you get those like little side interviews, you get the drama, you get them doing shout outs to like the Inside Funnel. Oh, I just heard this on the Inside Funnel, or I just read a Funnel City file on this topic. And it's just a really interesting way to bring together the IP, which I'm always trying to do. Like the Funnel City Files has Enrollamon in it. It has the instruments of Perpetual Flux. It has all the fake schools that I created for Inside the Funnel. It has all the different groups that I've made, like the enrollment aces, the codex practitioners, the metric court or court of metrics. And that is the other piece of this is I'm now a year and a half in, and I have really created and spun up a lot of IP around the podcast so that I can feature them in all these different types of vehicles, which has been really fun and really helpful. But yeah, so then the Funnel Vision, and this one is, again, the first season is the first 12 episodes. Didn't think about the fact that in June and December, I don't do regular episodes. I just do the musical albums. So this might be one of those things is over the course of 2 years, I release 12 episodes of each of these different episodes. But very, very high drama, very over the top, very silly. But again, following like, oh, this is issues that real colleges are facing. We're just heightening it. And then we're bringing in adaptive enrollment management techniques and principles to help solve those solutions. And so as of this recording, I have it scripted. I haven't done the recording yet. And we'll see some of my hesitation in the next one as we talk about the next class. So the next class is actually really a backdoor pilot. Like this is a podcast that I want to do for my institution. And I'm like, I will just record an episode of it essentially. Again, using one of the fake schools from Inside the Funnel, Portal Polytechnic. And like, okay, this is basically the podcast I want to do. And then maybe it's one of those things I can find an institution that wants to do this podcast and work and create and curate this podcast in a way that is institution specific. I think it's a really good concept. I think it's a great outreach piece for an institution to have. So we'll see how that goes. One thing I did run into that affects this and it affects the Funnel Vision is AI voices are hard. Because in other episode types, I just kind of do a few voices, kind of fake it like I'm on the phone, and it's like, it's passable. But the Funnel Vision and the next class are both very extensive character pieces. So I have like 4 or 5 different students that are talking in the next class episode. I have a few faculty and staff that are talking. And it's just not something I could fake voice-wise. So I put it into Speechify, and it is brutally time-consuming because you're having to, it's a lot of back and forth. Like the way I scripted it, I did not script it in a way to make it easy for myself, because I just wasn't thinking about how difficult this would be to generate voices for. So I basically create 10 different vocal tracks, one for each of the different characters, and then I have to splice it all together in Premiere. And it is brutally time consuming. And for a project that already is very time consuming, I don't know if I will be doing additional the next class episodes, just because, and if I do, I just have to reconfigure how the script is built to not be as many back and forths. And like, if it does go to the institution side, like these would just be vocals from actual students, actual staff, actual faculty. So it wouldn't have to be AI, but like the Funnel Vision fake reality TV show, first season, CRM State of Emergency. Again, CRM State, one of those fake colleges for inside the funnel. The AI voices for that's also going to be really hard just because there's so many different characters and it's so much back and forth. So I don't know how many Funnel Visions I'm going to do either. So we'll see how those go. I've only just started doing the voice constructions. I'm testing out Speechify Studio for that piece. So we'll see how that goes. Stay tuned. I'll get at least one episode out. But then the last couple episodes types are, I'm starting to release the audiobook for my second book, From Posters to Practice. I recorded the first chapter like late last year. I was like, oh, well, we'll get this out, edit it up a little bit, get it out, see if there's any traction there, maybe do a few more episodes of that. And then the Gilded builds. So I've done a lot of different types of like live build trainings and like the feature engineering pieces that I did, like the workbench walkthroughs and the ForgeWorks Grimoire, which are those tarot themed live trainings. And like this is just a little bit more like, I'm going to focus on like really gilded, blinged out, fancy builds. And so I have a couple of those releasing this semester. Again, already live on YouTube, but they'll be in the podcast feeds soon. So yeah, I'll probably go into more detail on those episodes later, but I just wanted to kind of introduce some of the new things coming this season. And now that we have that out of the way, I think it's time to introduce our next enrollment ace. You'll know them as the Wildcard. It's Ace Finfield. And no one remembers exactly when the plush shark first appeared in the data lounge. Just one morning, there it sat, beside the nightly import logs, bow tie straight, eyes unreadable. By evening, a dozen stalled processes were suddenly humming, and a stubborn deliver campaign had fired perfectly. The Wildcard is not a builder in the usual sense. It swims in the undercurrents of the CRM, flipping complex configurable joins with a flick of its fin, and bluffing duplicate records into behaving. Ping events become pocket aces. Liquid markup is its secret tell. When the enrollment odds look impossible, the Wildcard slides a silent stack of query chips across the table and, without ever moving, changes the game. No one sees it act, but the result is a yield turnaround so improbable it feels like magic. It's known for pulling off last-minute portal fixes that leave veteran builders speechless, spotting an obscure configurable joins trick no one else had ever tried, dropping unexpected insights in meetings that changed the entire enrollment strategy, and being everywhere and nowhere in the CRM. No one sees it moving, but everyone sees the outcome. You know him by the motto, chaos is my dealer, but slate is my table. And that's it for today's Coffee and Coals. Thank you for joining me, and come back next month when we learn more about our next enrollment ace, and just a bit more about Innovation Forge. Let's forge something extraordinary together. If you enjoyed today's episode, please grow the guild by rating and reviewing the Innovation Forge podcast or sharing it with a colleague who needs to hear about these creative crossovers in education. The best review or comment every month will get an ebook of my book, of course. Particularly great ones will also be featured on future episodes. Thank you so much for joining me in the workshop today. Remember to strike true, and let's forge something extraordinary together. Welcome to the Innovation Forge. They warned me not to query the aid layer directly. Said power fades was being phased out, retired, or moved to the cloud. But retired systems don't whisper. The moment I launched the client, I felt the pressure, like something ancient unfolding behind the HTML. The dashboard flickered, not visually, but conceptually. Labels rearranged themselves mid-sentence. Award became offering. Need became debt unmanifest. I tried to pull a test ISR file. The system resisted, then complied. But it wasn't a file, it was a scroll, unfurling itself on the screen, written in looping calligraphy I couldn't decipher. A footnote in the margin bled across the page, morphing into a FASR ID I swear it belonged to someone I knew. That's when the lights dimmed. Again, not in the room, in my memory. I was back in undergrad filling out my form, only now I saw them from the other side. The Oracle was watching. A figure of cracked porcelain, face unreadable, eyes glowing softly, one red, one green. Its arms were papered trays, exhaling warm document air. It reached toward me and issued no command, it simply waited. Rule updates echoed through the room like Gregorian chants. Verification flags swarmed around my feet like insects. Each one asked me to prove I existed. I had tried to explain my inquiry. It handed me a Parent Plus form. My son isn't old enough for college. I signed it anyways. Power fades. The eternal oracle of formless forms. The oracle is patient. Aid is never free.